Hey, this is Mrs. Hosmer, and today I'm going to show you our 50 days of bell ringers for science. And they're color coded too, they're different colors. Also, I have a 5-minute timer on the front here. Okay, so each day I'll have the day on the top, and you're going to answer the questions for each one. So if I tell you to do day 1 and day 2 by a certain date, that's what's going to be due. And we'll have this going for the whole quarter. Okay, so day 1, a new shopping center which covers the soil habitat of worms is built. Identify the following factors in an ecosystem as biotic or abiotic. Abiotic is non-living factors in an ecosystem, and biotic is living factors in an ecosystem. Okay, day 2, photosynthesis. There's a small video for you to watch as well, and the diagram on the top of photosynthesis. And it says, look at the diagram and answer the questions. What is the source of light used in photosynthesis? And number 2, what chemical enters the leaf from the air? Day 3, the water cycle. There's a small video for you to watch on the right hand side at the bottom, and then you're going to answer the 3 questions. Number 1, where does most water get evaporated from? Number 2, what holds 97% of all Earth's water? Number 3, what happens to your body if you drink salt water? Okay, day 4, a new shopping center which covers the soil habitat of worms is built. Please answer the following questions. Number 1, what will happen to the worms when the parking lot is poured? Number 2, what is lost when the new stores are built? What is gained? And number 3, birds eat worms. How does the new shopping center affect local birds? Day 5, independent and dependent variables in an experiment. You're going to watch the experiment and tell me the independent variable and dependent variable in the experiment. Which liquid will react the fastest to Mentos candy, Coke, or Diet Coke? You put your answers here. The video's right here if you tap on it. Okay, so you see where it is. Okay, day 6. And I'm going to make this a smaller screen so you can see. There are 5 questions about the Fahrenheit thermometer here, and then you have hearts that you can drag and pull for your answers. Okay, so you just put it on the right answer. And number 1, it says, in which of the following temperatures would snow most likely fall? And you would pick your answer. There's a small video on the top as well. Number 2, in which of the following temperatures would snow melt? Number 3, which temperature would be best for swimming in an unheated pool? Number 4, which temperature is warm enough to avoid wearing a jacket? And number 5, which temperature is most likely to be warm enough to go barefoot comfortably? Okay. Day 7, you have Frosty's line graph. Help Frosty track the annual snowfall. Use the line graph to answer the questions. You have the inches of snowfall and the months. And then there's 3 questions here. Number 1, which month had the greatest snowfall? Number 2, which month had the least snowfall? And number 3, which months had the same amount of snowfall? And here's day 8. What did I do wrong in the experiment? And you're going to watch the video and tell me what I did wrong in the experiment. Which liquid reacts the fastest to Mentos candy, Coke, or Diet Coke? And the video is right here. You just hit it on the blue where it says, what did I do wrong in the experiment? And you're going to answer right here in the rectangle. Okay, day 9, length of day. It has all the planets here, and the day equals the time for complete spin in Earth hours or days. And you have a small video here. And then you're going to answer the following questions. Number 1, which planet has a day length similar to Earth? Number 2, which planet had a day length about a week long? And number 3, identify the planets that have shorter days than Earth. Put them in order from shortest to the longest lengths. Okay, day 10 also has a small video on top for the periodic table. Fill in the blanks. Gives you the atomic number, symbol, and element on the top. So if you know this is atomic number 1, look on the periodic table, H, and then you tell me what the element is, okay? You're going to fill in what number this is, what number this is, the symbol, and then the element for these two. Okay, day 11, rocks, fill in the blanks. So you have your word bank up here, 3 different words to choose from. And you have a small video here. It says a blank is any naturally formed solid in the crust made up of 1 or more kinds of minerals. 2, rocks that form when melted rock material cools and hardens are called blank rocks. And the third one, small bits of matter joined together form blank. Day 12, heart, true or false? Your heart beats about 100,000 times a day. Number 2, a child's heart is about the size of a fist. And number 3, a drop of blood makes the entire trip through your body in less than a minute. You can look that up on the internet. Day 13, weather. What word means weather that is generally typical of an area? Which climate occurs in the middle of the United States? And number 3, which climate is characterized by a very wet season and a very dry season? Day 14, safety symbols in the lab. Match the symbol to the correct word or words. Okay, and here's your word bank. So what you could do if you don't have any idea for any of them, you can put it into Google, look up the symbol for the different ones, okay? It should show you the symbol. All right, rocks. Here's your word bank, and then you have your small video here. You're going to answer the following 3 questions. Sedimentary rocks can sometimes contain blank or the remains of imprints of living things of the past. A rock formed under heat and pressure from another kind of rock is called a blank rock. A metamorphic rock that contains minerals and brilliant colors and is easy to carve is blank. Day 16, the scientific method and variables. I have a small video on the independent and dependent variable, and then I also have a small video on the scientific method here, if you don't remember. Number 1, what is a hypothesis in an experiment? Number 2, what is an independent variable in an experiment? Number 3, what is a dependent variable in an experiment? Okay, day 17, cells, animal, and plant. Here's a small video up here. Name 2 things found in a plant cell that are not found in an animal cell. Number 2, what is the function of chloroplasts? Number 3, what is the function of a vacuole? Day 18, periodic table. Of course, you have the periodic table video up here. Again, you're going to fill out the atomic number, the symbol if it's missing, and the element. Day 19, small video on the top about planets. Put the inner planets in order from the closest to the sun to the furthest. You can even stop the video if you need help. Okay, and here's the planets you have to put in order: Earth, Mars, Mercury, and Venus. And then I put the sun here so that you would have a visual there for yourself. All right, day 20, human body analogies. Number 1, finger is to hand as toe is to foot. That's your example. So you're going to answer 2 through 6. Knee is to leg as blank is to arm. Wrist is to hand as blank is to foot. A hearing aid is to ears as glasses are to blank. Number 5, see is to eye as smell is to blank. Number 6, sock is to foot as glove is to blank. Day 21, the microscope. There's a small video up on top, right hand side. Here's your word bank. Okay, number 1 holds 2 or more objective lenses and can be rotated to change the power. Number 2, the bottom of the microscope used for support. Number 3, combination of lenses at the viewing end of optical instruments. Number 4, supports upper part of the microscope. Number 5, located on the side of the frame used to adjust the focus of the microscope. And it's not going. There we go. Day 22, plant experiment. So Fred put 2 plants outside in the sun for 2 weeks. He left 1 plant in the sun and put a black box over the second plant. He watered both plants every other day. So here's the sun, here's the plant. Same exact plants, but one he put a black box on top of. So you're going to answer the following 2 questions. Number 1, which question was Fred probably trying to answer? Hint, state the problem. And number 2, why did Fred use the box in the experiment? Day 23, hearing. You're going to look at the chart, the alphabet on the right-hand side. Number 1, what is the name of the alphabet shown? And number 2, it would be useful to know how to speak using sign language if you were friends with somebody who is in blank. You're going to answer that. Practice the first 6 letters of the alphabet. Day 24, color blindness. People who are colorblind have a hard time usually telling the difference between red, yellow, and green. Are you colorblind? What is the number inside the circle? And what is the number inside of this circle? Day 25, scientific method. I have the small video on the scientific method up here. And then you're looking at this young lady. She has straws in her mouth. And it says, Joan made this musical instrument in science class out of tape and straws. What question was she testing in her experiment? And then you're going to answer in the rectangle here. There's 4 different choices. A, how different lengths of straws sound when blown into. B, which kind of straw is the least expensive? C, how thicker and thinner straws sound different when blown into? And D, how color affects the sound a straw makes. So you pick which one you think it is. Okay, day 26, Celsius and Fahrenheit. You have a small video up on top. You also have a comparison of Fahrenheit and Celsius. You're going to answer the following questions. Number 1, which temperature is warmer, 0 degrees Fahrenheit or 0 degrees Celsius? Number 2, which temperature is colder, 0 degrees Celsius or 32 degrees Fahrenheit? Number 3, at which temperature would water boil, 212 degrees Fahrenheit or 90 degrees Celsius? And number 4, what is the normal temperature of the human body in degrees in Fahrenheit? And day 27, make a Venn diagram of prokaryotic and eukaryotic cells. Here's a small video up on top about prokaryotic and eukaryotic cells. And you're going to take, oh, that's right, because we're doing the big screen. So let me make it smaller so that you can see. You can take these and drag them, okay? So you click on them, and you can drag them into the, oh, I just moved the whole box. Drag them into the, wherever they need to go. So you know that the red, that it is for both of them, eukaryotic, prokaryotic cells. And if it's just prokaryotic cells, you would put your answer here. And if it's just eukaryotic cells, you put your answer here in the white, okay? We are on day 28. Okay, day 28, the cell. So you have your small video up on top on the right, if you need it. True or false? Number 1, the cell is the basic unit of all living things. Number 2, the cell is the smallest unit of a living thing. And number 3, a unicellular cell is more than one cell. All right, day 29, living things have common characteristics. I'm only asking you to name 3 of them. Here's a video you can watch about the cell review. Okay, day 30, you're going to go over the experiment about Louis Pasteur, and you have a small video. And we went over this before. Pasteur's experiment shows that bacteria are present in the air. They do not appear spontaneously. So he took 2 flasks and he filled them with broth after the broth was boiled. And then he put a seal on both of them. And then a couple of days later, he looked at it and they were both clear. There was no bacteria growing. So he cut off the top of the flask and let air get into the flask. And then a couple of days later, he observed that there was bacteria growing in the one that was exposed to air. So number 1, what is the independent variable in this experiment? And number 2, what is the dependent variable in this experiment? Okay, day 31, cells, tissues, and organs. Again, there's a small video at the bottom. Number 1, what are organ systems made up of? Number 2, which has a higher level of organization, a cell or an organ? And number 3, from the chart, which is the most highly organized? Okay. And day 32, how to make ice cream in a bag. So there's a small video. Watch the video how to make ice cream in a bag and answer the following questions. Number 1, why is this a demonstration and not an experiment? Explain. And number 2, what could I change or manipulate in this demonstration to make it an experiment? Day 33, which boat will hold the most weight? There's a small video attached to it. Watch the video and answer the questions. Number 1, is this an experiment or a demonstration? Number 2, what is the independent variable? And number 3, what is the dependent variable? All right, day 34, 4 states of matter. List an example of each state of matter. And the last one has an example already in, so you just have to do 1, 2, and 3. So liquid, you're going to give an example. Solid, gas, plasma is lightning, as an example. Day 35, fighting the flu, shot or no shot. And the flu vaccine decreases your chances of catching the flu, but it does not protect you 100%. However, if you get the shot and still end up catching the flu, your symptoms probably will be milder than if you had not gotten vaccinated. There are many strains of the flu virus. Each year, scientists choose the strains that they think will appear in the United States. Then a vaccine is made that contains those strains. The vaccine is given to people across the country. However, getting a flu shot will not protect you against any strain that is not in the vaccine. All right, so number 1, what is one challenge that scientists face when making the flu vaccine? And number 2, does a person need to get a flu shot every year? Why or why not? And day 36, what is the Richter scale? And it has the Richter scale here. A scale of 0 to 1 means generally not felt but recorded in seismometers. 2 to 3, felt by many people but not noticeable damage. Okay, then you can go ahead and look at that. And it says the Richter scale measures the size or magnitude of an earthquake on a scale of 1 to 10. And then you're going to answer the following questions. Okay, so determine where these would fall on the Richter scale. Total destruction. Okay, some damage, most people unaware of the event. Okay, so you can do that. Day 37, which candle will burn the longest, the white or the pink? You're going to watch the experiment. Before you watch the video, please state your hypothesis for this experiment. Then watch the video and answer the questions. So give me what your hypothesis is. And then what is the independent variable in this experiment? And what is the dependent variable in this experiment? Day 38, how did the water get onto the bowl? Okay, so there was an experiment done, or not an experiment, a demonstration was done. Janice put a cup of water on the windowsill in the sun and covered it with a bowl. Later that day, when she looked at the bowl, there was moisture on the inside of it. Okay, and you're going to answer these two questions based off of what was just told to you. Number one, what is the most likely way the water got onto the bowl? And number two, is this an experiment or a demonstration? Sorry, I think I gave you the answer to that. Day 39, blood types. So there's a little chart here. If you are blood type, and then you can receive blood types and you can donate to people with blood types. So number one, it says David has type O blood. He needs to get some extra blood during an operation. What type or types of blood can he get? Number two, if you are blood type AB, you can donate blood to people with type blank blood. And number three, which type of blood can donate to all the blood types? Day 40, lung capacity. So Michael tests his lung capacity using the equipment in the picture. He takes a deep breath in and then blows all the air from inside his lungs into the tube. How much air was in his lungs? You're going to look and see what it says. And number two, which activity is least likely to be affected by lung capacity? A, skiing, B, playing the piano, or C, playing the trumpet. Day 41, fresh water. It tells you the breakdown of all the water on Earth. It says fresh water is 2.8%, and salt water is 97.2%. Lakes and streams, surface water and groundwater, ice caps and glaciers, water vapor in the atmosphere. So this is where all the fresh water is of that 2.8%. Number one, where is most of the fresh water found on Earth? And number two, what percent of the water on Earth is salt water? Day 42, corn plants. Amanda's science class planted corn seeds in different materials. One was planted in topsoil, one was planted in clay, and one was planted in sand. You're going to answer the following questions. Number one, what can be concluded from this experiment? Which material did the corn plants grow the tallest? Number two, what is the independent variable in this experiment? And number three, what is the dependent variable in this experiment? Day 43, what's in garbage thrown away every day? So here's a bar graph. It tells you the percents on right here, and then the materials. Okay, so number one, what percent of garbage is plastic? And number two, why is it especially important to recycle paper? Day 44, volcano. Number one, where does magma become lava? And number two, what are the three types of volcanoes? So you can answer that. And day 45 is on oxygen. There is a small video here and two questions for you to answer. Number one, how much of Earth's atmosphere is composed of oxygen? And number two, who discovered oxygen? Day 46, which liquid would expand the balloon the fastest, vinegar or lime juice with baking soda? There's a small video and then there's questions for you to answer. So before you even watch the video, make your hypothesis here, and then after you watch the video, say if it's correct or incorrect. What is the independent variable in this experiment, and what could I change to make this a different experiment? You're going to answer those questions. Day 47, endangered species. So if you look, this is the polar bears, they're endangered. There's an article you can read right here when you press that. The polar bears on the endangered species list since 2008. There are less than 25,000 polar bears in the world. Number one, why do you think the polar bears are on the endangered species list? Number two, what is the lifespan of a polar bear? And number three, what color is a polar bear's skin? And day 48, experiment versus demonstration. Here's a small video. What is the difference between an experiment and a demonstration? Number two, give an example of an experiment. And number three, give an example of a demonstration. Day 49, experiment review. Okay, so you have a balance beam here, and you have two deflated balloons before and then after. You have inflated balloon, okay, and one that's not. And it says, what can be concluded from the above experiment? A, air has weight. B, the balloons were different weights before being inflated. C, the balance must be broken, or D, inflated balloons weigh less than uninflated balloons. And here's your questions. I'm sorry. Number one, what can be concluded from the above experiment? It's not above the side. And what is the dependent variable in this experiment? Last one, day 50, bald eagles. So there's a line graph about the bald eagle hatching data. And it says there used to be many bald eagles born each year in the United States. Then there were fewer and fewer bald eagles being born. In 1972, the farmers stopped using a certain spray to kill insects on their crops. Why do you think more eagles were born after 1972? So here's your choices, and you can answer number one for that. And number two, what other animals do you think the farmer's insect spray may have hurt? If you like my channel, please subscribe. Thank you.